Hello brothers and welcome to Sigma Old Man Channel. Silence is only golden when you know how to weaponize it. Most people think power comes from shouting the loudest, but research from Harvard Business Review revealed something unsettling. The quietest individuals in a group are often the ones steering decisions from the shadows. That's not coincidence, that's Sigma behavior. Sigma males don't advertise their strength. They embed it into habits that look ordinary until you realize they're anything but. The way they vanish mid-conversation, the way they reject pointless noise, the way they can make you feel like oxygen left the room without raising their voice. These aren't quirks, they're signatures. And yes, while everyone else is posting rise and grind selfies at 5 a.m., the Sigma is probably sipping coffee, dismantling an entire strategy in his head, and laughing quietly at the circus around him. Today, we're breaking down the rare habits that prove without question you're not just different, you're Sigma. And once you see them, you'll never unsee them. Number one, you're both the lock and the key. You're both the lock and the key. That's one of the rarest habits that separates a Sigma from everyone else. Most people live inside cages they didn't even build. They're locked into jobs they secretly hate, relationships that drain them, social circles they outgrew years ago, and expectations that were handed down by parents, bosses, or society itself. They didn't design these prisons, but they live inside them anyway. A Sigma doesn't operate like that. He builds his life in a way where he can lock everything down when needed, but he also keeps the key in his pocket. That's the subtle genius. He can commit to a project, a friendship, or a routine, but it never owns him. He doesn't overexpose himself or trap his identity inside one label, one environment, or one role. If the situation turns toxic, he can walk away without hesitation, without theatrics, and without begging for understanding. That ability is freedom disguised as discipline. He creates doors where others see walls, and the reason he can do it is because he never let the lock get bigger than the key. What makes this habit even more intriguing is how invisible it looks to others. People often think a Sigma is deeply rooted, maybe even predictable, until the day he decides he's done. That's when everyone realizes he was never trapped in the first place. It's not that he's running from commitment, it's that he refuses to give anyone or anything the power to control him. His loyalty is real, but it's chosen, not chained. There's also a quiet humor in how it plays out. While everyone else panics about losing opportunities or staying relevant, the Sigma can flip the switch and reinvent himself overnight. He doesn't need permission slips from society. He doesn't ask if the cage is comfortable. He simply checks if he still has the key. And if he does, he knows he's fine. This habit proves one thing. A Sigma never plays by the same rules as everyone else. He designs the lock, he keeps the key, and if life ever tries to shut him in, he's already built the exit no one else noticed. That's control most people will never taste. Number two, you value depth over frequency. You value depth over frequency, the way some people collect stamps, quietly, deliberately, and with an almost stubborn refusal to be seduced by quantity. Most social calendars are built on noise, likes, small talk, constant check-ins that feel important because they're frequent. You treat those as background static. You don't track rapport by how often someone messages you. You measure it by whether a single exchange can change a day, a decision, or a life. One brutal, honest conversation with you lands like a verdict. It restructures priorities, exposes truth, and forces progress. That doesn't make you cold, it makes you efficient. You conserve energy like a craftsman saves his best materials for the masterpiece, not for practice runs. Because of that, your real words are rare and valuable. People learn quickly that when you speak with raw clarity, it's not filler. It's a calibrated input meant to shift things. That rarity creates weight. Friends crave your time not because they want validation, but because they want transformation. You don't text to stay visible, you appear to be useful. Social media's constant drip feels shallow to you. You'd rather have one late-night call that cuts through excuses and excuses none. This approach forces relationships to be elective, not habitual. Some connections fade because they were built on a rhythm you refuse to keep. Others deepen because they survived the test of scarcity and came back stronger. You also set boundaries in a way that looks almost rude to casual observers, turning down plans, skipping parties, ignoring the group chat. But it's actually a discipline that protects the few meaningful ties you have. There's a pragmatic tenderness in it. You give full presence to fewer people, and those people know the real you, not 1,000 watered-down fragments. And yes, there's a sly satisfaction when someone realizes they'd rather have one of your honest conversations than a week of polite noise. You don't hunt for popularity, you curate influence. The result is relationships that demand respect because they were earned in concentrated, honest doses. Heavy, rare, and unforgettable. Number 3, you don't broadcast your moves, you plant landmines instead. You don't broadcast your moves, you plant landmines instead. Most people can't resist the urge to narrate their lives, telling anyone who will listen about their goals, their next big plan, or the game-changing project they're working on. They announce because they crave validation before they even take a step. A Sigma doesn't move like that. You prefer silence, not because you're timid, but because you know that words dilute impact. Every time someone brags about what they'll do, they release energy that should have been invested in execution. You don't make that mistake. You hold your intentions close, let them ferment, and only release them when the results are impossible to ignore. The beauty and the danger in this habit is how it disorients people. By the time your work surfaces, it's already too late for others to prepare, copy, or sabotage. You've planted the landmine months earlier when no one was watching, and when it explodes, the shock is amplified because nobody saw it coming. It's not about drama, it's about precision. Quiet execution followed by undeniable outcomes is a form of psychological dominance. It teaches people that your silence is never empty, it's loaded. This approach also keeps your circle tight. You never invite unnecessary eyes into your process, which protects you from envy, sabotage, or distraction. People can't target what they can't see. That secrecy gives you the freedom to pivot, experiment, and fail quietly without public judgment. By the time you reveal your moves, the flaws are ironed out and the win is polished. There's also an almost mischievous humor to it. While others hype themselves up with motivational quotes and countdowns to their big reveal, you sit back, watch the noise, and then drop results that make their announcements look like cheap trailers for movies that never get released. This habit proves something simple but powerful. You understand that suspense is its own kind of weapon. A Sigma doesn't talk about detonations. He sets the charge, walks away, and lets the silence do the damage when the ground finally shakes. Number 4, you never beg time, you manufacture it. You never beg time, you manufacture it. While most people live like time is their master, rushing from one pointless obligation to the next, you treat it like raw material. You cut, shape, and bend it until it works for you. That's why you don't get caught up in endless calls that resolve nothing, shallow socializing that leaves you drained, or fake obligations designed to keep everyone else busy but productive for no one. You see those things for what they are, time thieves. And instead of complaining that the day isn't long enough, you quietly delete the clutter. This habit is powerful because it exposes how wasteful most people truly are. They believe being busy equals being important, but busyness is just disguised chaos. You operate differently. You create freedom not by working harder, but by refusing to participate in noise that doesn't serve your goals or peace of mind. It's ruthless in its simplicity, and that's why people envy it. They can't understand how you seem to have time for yourself, time to think, time to create, while they're drowning in group chats, errands, and meetings that go nowhere. What makes it even more Sigma is that you don't apologize for this. You don't explain why you won't show up to every gathering or why you let a call go unanswered. You don't need to. The results speak louder: sharper focus, clearer mind, and an almost untouchable control of your schedule. It's not about rejecting people, it's about rejecting the illusion that every demand on your time deserves a yes. The irony is, while others chase productivity hacks and time management courses, you achieve the same effect by subtraction, not addition. You strip life down until only the meaningful remains. That's why your presence feels different. When you do show up, people know it's intentional, not habitual. This habit proves you're not a slave to the clock. You design it, and in a world where everyone else is begging for more hours, you're the one bending hours into shape, quietly manufacturing freedom while others wonder why they never have enough. Number 5, you keep an invisible ledger. You keep an invisible ledger. It's not petty bookkeeping. It's a quiet calibration system that maps truth onto behavior. Every fake laugh, every coerced compliment, every thinly veiled agenda gets logged not with anger, but with attention. You don't ratchet up drama the moment someone slips, you store the data. Over time, that ledger sketches a pattern. Who's honest, who borrows kindness as currency, who will stab when convenient. That map makes your decisions surgical. Nobody sees you tallying. You don't flash receipts or call people out for theater. Instead, you use the record like strategic intelligence. It tells you when to forgive, when to withdraw, and when to execute a correction that's exact, not emotional. That's what makes it dangerous to those who take you for granted. They think silence equals forgetfulness, when in reality silence is the slow, careful filing of facts. The ledger also protects your energy. You don't get burned by promises that evaporate because you've already noted the name, the excuse, the pattern. You don't waste words on explanations because the ledger already decided the outcome. And when you do act, whether it's giving someone a last chance, cutting a cord, or exposing a truth, it's based on months or years of recorded behavior, not a single loud moment. There's a moral clarity to it that often surprises people. You're not keeping score to punish for sport. You're keeping score to survive with your integrity intact. That makes your reactions credible and oddly fair. They aren't emotional retaliation. They're calibrated responses to a history someone wrote for themselves. People who operate on impulse mistake your ledger for coldness. They don't realize it's a sophisticated filter that values consistency over charisma. In a world of performative loyalty and oxygen-sucking drama, your invisible ledger is a defense and a weapon. It ensures that when you finally cash a receipt, the result is inevitable, measured, and devastatingly accurate. Number 6, you test people without warning. You test people without warning, and that habit is both subtle and ruthless. You don't sit around drawing up elaborate schemes to catch people slipping. It's instinctive. You hand someone a small truth, an opportunity, or a piece of access, not because you fully trust them, but because you want to see what they'll do when they think no one is watching. It's not paranoia, it's strategy. You know that people reveal their real character when they think the stakes are low. That's why your tests are never dramatic. They're quiet setups designed to expose what's beneath the mask. The brilliance of this habit lies in its timing. You don't warn people, you don't announce, "This is a test." You simply observe. Will they run their mouth with the information you shared? Will they keep their promise when the benefit to them is small? Will they respect the boundary when no one's keeping score? Most people fail without even realizing they've been graded. By the time they think they're building trust with you, you already know whether they deserve a seat closer or permanent distance. It makes you look mysterious to outsiders. They can't figure out why some people get cut off so abruptly or why you suddenly go cold after being warm. What they don't realize is that you're not reacting to one isolated thing. You're responding to a failed test they didn't even know they were taking. That precision makes you efficient with relationships. You don't waste years discovering someone's true nature. You reveal it early with a subtle push. There's even a touch of dark humor in how people expose themselves. They think they've outsmarted you, when in reality they've only confirmed what you already suspected. You don't rage, you don't argue, you just let them show their hand and quietly file them away under unfit for access. This habit proves why Sigmas rarely end up surrounded by parasites or fake friends. You don't wait for betrayal to break you. You create conditions where betrayal announces itself early. Then, you step back with the calm of someone who already knew the outcome. That's not distrust. That's survival intelligence. Number 7, you're addicted to vanishing points. You're addicted to vanishing points. It's not an escape fantasy, it's an operational preference. While most people daydream about houses, cars, or titles, you run through flight numbers, new languages, and blank calendars. The appeal isn't drama, it's the reset. New city, new people, no trace. Each move is a laboratory where you can test versions of yourself without anyone's expectations, old nicknames, or unpaid favors trailing behind. This habit shows up in small ways. You keep a passport that's more sentimental than decorative. You learn how to pack light not because you enjoy austerity, but because a pared-down life makes it easier to vanish and reappear wherever you choose. You collect loose skills, how to find work, how to read a room, how to disappear politely, so that reinvention is never risky, it's routine. There's also a strategic joy to it. Disappearance is a defense and a lever. When people treat you like a fixture, you don't argue, you leave. When an environment starts to own you, you unhook before it can claim you. That ability forces others to reckon with you on your terms. It turns dependence into consideration and entitlement into uncertainty. Your vanishing isn't always dramatic. More often it's surgical. One quiet move, a few cleaned-up profiles, a handful of severed obligations, and you're lighter. Some call it ghosting, you call it maintenance. The funny part is how predictable it makes you unpredictable. People plan around your absence as if it were part of the calendar. Ultimately, this habit is freedom disguised as obsession. You don't want to disappear to avoid life. You vanish so you can choose which life to return to. Wiser, stranger, and less willing to be caged. The urge to disappear is less about running and more about owning the exit. That ownership is a form of power most people never consider. Number 8, you practice silent punishments. You practice silent punishments, and it's one of the most devastating habits you carry. When someone violates your boundary, you don't storm out, shout, or make a grand performance. That would give them too much credit. Instead, you remove the most precious resource they had access to, your energy. You don't announce it, you don't negotiate it, you don't explain it. You just withdraw so completely that the absence becomes unbearable. It's not petty silence, it's exile. What makes this habit lethal is how disproportionate the impact feels compared to the action. Most people are used to fights, heated words, or emotional explosions when they cross a line. Those can be processed, dismissed, or even manipulated. But your quiet withdrawal doesn't give them that option. There's no script for dealing with someone who simply stops feeding you oxygen. It forces them into confrontation with their own emptiness. The psychology behind it is brutal. Humans crave validation, reaction, and acknowledgement, even in conflict. By giving none, you deny them the one thing they didn't realize they were addicted to, your attention. You don't need revenge because their own craving does the punishment for you. It's the kind of consequence that doesn't fade quickly. It lingers, gnaws, and replays in their head at night when they wonder why the room feels colder. It also makes your boundaries unquestionable. After experiencing that void, people learn that breaking your trust or crossing your line isn't worth the cost. They either shape up or vanish, and either outcome serves you. You don't burn bridges, you drain them until crossing feels pointless. There's a subtle irony too. From the outside it looks like you did nothing at all. No yelling, no drama, no spectacle. But the one on the receiving end knows exactly what happened, and they know it cut deeper than words ever could. This habit proves why you're dangerous in ways that can't be measured by volume. You don't need to fight to win. You let silence do the wounding, and silence always strikes harder than noise. Number 9, you have an allergy to performance. You have an allergy to performance, and it's one of the reasons people find you so unpredictable. The second a conversation feels staged, the moment someone slips into a polished social character, you detach. It's not even conscious most of the time, and your brain just shuts the door. Realness or nothing. You don't sit through rehearsed laughs, borrowed opinions, or conversations that sound like they've been practiced in a mirror. To you, that's not connection, that's theater. And Sigma Energy doesn't pay tickets to fake shows. This habit makes you both magnetic and polarizing. On one hand, people who crave realness are drawn to you because they know you won't waste their time with fluff. On the other, performers feel uncomfortable because their usual tricks, charm, exaggeration, self-promotion, collapse in your presence. You're immune to the spell they use to win over everyone else. It's not that you despise small talk entirely, it's that you can smell when it's just a placeholder, a filler to mask emptiness. You'd rather endure silence than participate in something plastic. That preference has consequences. You cut out environments that thrive on surface-level performances, parties where everyone's auditioning for social approval, workplaces where people compete for the spotlight, friendships that are more about optics than substance. You don't announce your exit, you just quietly fade, leaving the actors to perform for themselves. There's also humor in how blunt this habit makes you. While others nod politely through pretentious conversations, you check out mentally or steer things straight into uncomfortable honesty. It unsettles people who rely on masks, but it disarms those who are waiting for someone to finally cut through the act. This allergy to performance is more than preference, it's survival. Fake performances waste time, drain energy, and cloud truth. All things you refuse to trade for acceptance. That's why people either respect you deeply or feel exposed around you. You make it impossible to hide behind a character. With you, it's raw or nothing, and that's exactly how you like it. Number 10, you build reputation like compound interest. You build reputation like compound interest, and that's what makes your presence quietly formidable. While most people chase quick recognition, loud wins, viral moments, flashy announcements, you stack your reputation in silence. Every time you say no to something shallow, every time you take a stand that costs you comfort but keeps your integrity intact, every unadvertised win that you never bragged about, they all start to pile up. At first, nobody notices. To them, you're just moving quietly, maybe even invisibly. But time is recording everything, and time never forgets. Years later, that invisible ledger turns into weight. People realize your name holds gravity not because you screamed it into existence, but because you consistently refuse to dilute it. Your reputation has been compounding in the background while others were cashing out quick for cheap attention. That's why when you finally step into a room, you don't need to argue, posture, or sell yourself. Your history speaks before you do. The brilliance of this habit is that it's self-sustaining. Just like compound interest, the longer you keep at it, the more exponential the growth becomes. One person you treated with sharp honesty years ago mentions you in a room you've never been in. A principle you refuse to break suddenly becomes relevant in a world addicted to shortcuts. That consistent silence matures into credibility you couldn't buy if you tried. It also makes you untouchable in a way. Others can fabricate influence with noise, but noise always fades. Yours doesn't, because it was never artificial. It was built brick by brick, refusal by refusal, choice by choice. You didn't have to chase validation because you were busy planting seeds. And when those seeds grow, they form a reputation people trust instinctively, even if they don't fully understand why. There's a quiet humor in it too. The same people who once dismissed you for not playing the game end up whispering your name with respect when the game forgets them. That's the reward of compounding. You didn't need to advertise. Time did the advertising for you, and it did it better than you ever could. Number 11, you scan rooms for energy leaks. You scan rooms for energy leaks, and it's a habit so sharp that most people don't even realize you're doing it. While others notice who's dressed best, who's loudest, or who's commanding attention, you're running a silent audit. You're not looking at faces, you're measuring flow. Who brings energy into the space and who siphons it out like a hidden vacuum? To you, it's not about status or importance. A person can be powerful, attractive, or even essential to the group, but if they drain your energy, they're already flagged. This isn't paranoia, it's precision. You understand that energy is the most limited resource in the world. Money can be regained, time can sometimes be negotiated, but once your energy is gone, you're hollow. That's why you protect it ruthlessly. You don't care if someone is family, boss, or old friend. If they're a leak, you cut them off or reduce exposure until they can no longer drain you. It's not cruelty, it's survival. The way you sense these leaks is almost subconscious. You notice the subtle cues, the forced laughter that leaves you emptier, the constant complaints that never resolve, the attention seekers who thrive only by making everyone else smaller. Most people tolerate them for the sake of politeness. You don't. You know that leaks spread. Stay around one long enough and suddenly you're the one exhausted, distracted, and doubting yourself. There's a cold clarity in how you handle it. No speeches, no big goodbye, no dramatic confrontation, just less access. You withdraw gradually until they're talking to themselves, wondering when you slipped away. And the truth is, you were already gone the moment you confirmed they were draining more than they gave. It also unsettles people who expect you to play along. They can't understand why you'd cut ties with someone who seems important in the social hierarchy. But that's the sigma difference. Importance means nothing if it costs you vitality. This habit proves why you rarely look depleted. You're not superhuman, you're strategic. You don't allow leaks to bleed you dry. And that's why, when others are burnt out from tolerating the wrong people, you're still moving with full charge. Number 12, you never argue with a fool, you starve them. You never argue with a fool, you starve them. Most people get sucked into verbal wars because they think winning a point proves something about themselves. You know it doesn't. Engaging a fool only feeds their performance. Attention is the oxygen their nonsense needs to survive. So you cut the supply. You stop answering the bait, stop supplying counterpoints, stop reacting. Your silence turns their momentum into a sad little show that loses heat fast. This isn't passive weakness, it's deliberate economy. Words cost energy and you spend yours on moves that matter. While others fling opinions like confetti, you conserve your voice for moments that actually change outcomes. Letting a fool ramble without correction isn't neglect, it's strategic denial. Without an audience, their arguments collapse into noise. The result is cleaner, fewer fights, less drama, and a social environment that learns the hard way that your attention is finite. There's a psychological sting to it. People who thrive on spectacle expect reaction. When none comes, they're forced into awkward self-reflection or louder escalation that only exposes them further. You don't humiliate them, you simply refuse to participate in their production. That denial often hurts worse than any direct retort because it forces them to face the truth that nobody's listening. This habit also protects your reputation. Fighting fools drags you down to their level and cheapens your credibility. By starving them instead, you keep your voice rare and sharp. When you do speak, people pay attention because your words aren't noise. They're calibrated, intentional, and irreversible. In a world addicted to outrage and reaction, withholding response is an advanced form of power. Every habit we've explored paints a clear picture. Sigma males don't chase power, they embody it in silence. They build reputations that grow like compound interest, punish with absence instead of noise, and filter people with tests no one sees coming. They don't beg for time, they manufacture it. They don't waste words on fools, they starve them. They move like ghosts planting landmines, quietly shaping outcomes while everyone else is distracted by performance and noise. What makes these habits extraordinary isn't that they're flashy, it's that they're surgical. A Sigma doesn't seek to dominate with volume. He dominates by controlling himself, protecting his energy, and refusing to play by the scripts others depend on. That's why people never forget them. Sigma presence isn't a spotlight, it's an earthquake. You don't always see it coming, but you always feel it after. If you've recognized yourself in these habits, don't water it down, sharpen it, protect it, own it. Because these are not just quirks, and they're the very fabric of Sigma strength. And before you go, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more raw and brutally honest insights like this. Don't forget to like, comment, and share this video so more people can see what truly sets Sigmas apart. Your support helps keep this movement alive.